Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Danjo. This is their part number 946-S-CW. So the 946-SCW, let's dissect that part number. 946 is this door reinforcing plate. That number is going to represent all of the dimensional properties of the item. The S means stainless steel. In the world of Danjo, that's going to be made of stainless and in a brushed finish. The CW stands for commercial wrap. They had an IW series at one time, which stood for interior wrap. The manufacturer, when I asked, was not able to tell me how they were different at all. You know, one might think that the gauge of the material was thinner, but it had not been a part number. IW has not been a part number for several years, but I think it's because they had IW and CW that they have CW in their part number. Otherwise, they're all CWs from what basically I was told. So the 946 means this shape. The S means made of stainless and in a brushed finish. Let's just tackle the S part right now. Peel away protective film that's here. We're going to reveal the brushed satin finish that you see. Okay. This will be available in other finishes, which we'll go over in a moment. Now, according to the extended description, this plate is going to be 12-inch tall. Okay, indeed. It's going to be 4.5-inch wide. Indeed. It's going to be 2 3/4 backset. Right on. 2 1/8-inch holes, correct. 6-inch center to center. So the center of the top hole to the center of the bottom hole is 6-inch. Okay, and it's for 1 3/4 inch thick door, and that covers everything particular about it. Both holes are 2 1/8. Okay, obviously completely non-handed. Use it any way that you like. Fun fact about door wraps: they're not rated for use on fire-rated doors. If you have a fire-rated door, technically speaking, this is not permissible for use on the door. Why? Well, it's an additional fuel load is number one, and the primary reason, which should be number one. Number one is that it's not been tested. And the logic is, well, there's an additional fuel load here, so we don't know how the door would react. And Danjo has never had any of their products tested door reinforcers for use on fire doors that I'm aware of. The other dimensional property we've not covered is the gauge. They say that it's 22 gauge, which would be about 30 thousandths thick. And my caliper tells me the material is 0.0. Yeah, spot on. 0.031, my caliper told me. Now, why would you use this? We'll go over that in a moment. This is going to include screws. You're going to have a total of 4 832 flat undercut head machine screws. That's going to be for attaching your latch bolts directly to the edge of the plate via these insert nuts that are here. The logic of attaching the hardware to the plate, then that whole assembly going to the door, is your door is probably damaged if you're using one of these. It's possibly damaged that you don't have anywhere to screw the latch bolts to. So the latch bolts go right to this plate. The entire plate goes down to the door. Is how that works. Now, the other pack of screws will be your fasteners, total of 4 of them, for use here, 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 and here. Okay. Why would you use it, and how would you install it? Let's go over how you install it. First of all, I've installed these, and they can either be easy, no problem, everything's great, to, oh, this took way too long. The way too long, the easy, great, everything's great is, okay, fine, it just fit on and the door still worked. It takes too long is when you have a tight margin between the edge of the door and the strike jamb. You have an inadequate amount of room to accommodate this to go on. You have to be able to fit this onto the door so that your door still operates. You might have to take no measures to make it fit, or you might have to take reasonable measures or extreme measures. So when you're not taking any measures, there's probably too much gap between the edge of the door and frame anyway, because you're still adding a 32nd of an inch nominally, you're really adding more than that because you're not going to get this press fit to the edge of the door hyper tight. You are likely going to have to you will certainly have to clear out the area where the latch bolts were to fit the plate down, okay, to make that fit. You're going to possibly even need to, this is pretty rare, but route the entire edge of the door so that you can fit this completely flat with the edge of the door. If it's a wood door, that would be a nice way to install it because you'll have a really nice, clean, straight line all the way down the edge of the door. Although, admittedly, people don't rarely ever do that. Have I seen it? You would take a router and you would route that. You would skim the edge of that door down so you can fit that plate flat. And you're routing it, you know, the thickness of the material plus the amount of the lost distance from the underside of the plate to the face of the door, which would be tiny, but still measurable. So you can also choose to make it a lot more work just to put finesse into the job as well. The bottom line is you need to get this installed to the edge of the door and have the door still operate. That's the key. You know, a residential door, and now you've got to really pull the door closed, and any sort of swelling that might happen, thermal expansion, could cause a problem as well. If you've got a door that just gets baked in the sun all day long, this is going to expand. Your door is going to, you know, be funny to operate at that point. So you've got to make sure that this fits. So when I install these, I'll put it on and then I'll dry fit it. Make sure that the door still swings and create any additional clearance necessary. What you could also do is get this clamped down to the edge of the door. Pony clamps are good for that. A pony, or think of a pipe clamp. We'd call it a pony clamp, and I think many other people do. Pony Jorgensen. Pony is a company that manufactures clamps that fit down to typical black pipe. Okay, and Pony they were out of business, and now they may be back in Chicago, about Western and Grand Avenue, in that general area. So it's a local company for us back then. So you could get this clamped down to the edge of the door so that you know that you've got it sealed off nice, so that when you pre-drill your holes, you're not going to leave any residual, you know, unintended area underside the edge of the plate to the face of the door, because you want the fit as tight as possible. You might even install those screws, pre-drill them at an ever so slight angle so that the screw just draws the plate back tight on the door. But you don't want to install it so that you're taking that plate and skewing it on one side or the other. Practice and experience. Let's switch to the screen view and take a look at the supporting documentation. So this is the item here that we are looking at. Okay, 2 holes, whole 9 yards. Classic wraparound. Classic wrap, you know, they're calling it there. Commercial wrap is how I was told. For double lock combinations. All the other dimensional properties that we discussed. When you buy one, we'll ship you one. A template is here, and the template's going to give you not only all of the other dimensional properties that we've not discussed, but those holes are 3-inch from either end to the center line. They state that you can do it in PB, polished brass, which would be a solid brass with a polished finish and a lacquer applied, and a stainless. Okay, so there's your technical drawing or your template. Then we have the product catalog, and the product catalog is nice, and I'm going to copy that part number because it will show you this and all of its sister products. And I'll do a find function on my keyboard for 946 and get to the table where I can find this item. Okay. So they've got the 946 seen here in this table. There's a 486 in the same table, and the difference there is it'll give you an 1.5-inch hole up top. An 1.5-inch hole would be very typical for, I'm told that some quickset locks will go into it, but I can't think of a model number. But certainly Schlage locks, your B100, your B400, many Schlage locks will fit in an 1.5-inch hole. Many won't, but many will. So be mindful that if you have an 1.5-inch hole, this would be a good option to use. I always like deadbolts where we're removing less material from the door because it leaves the integrity of the door intact. Now, in this product catalog, we're talking about units that have 2 double holes. Okay, so we have 4-inch centers, 5.5-inch centers, 3 5/8 centers. Not sure why this is different than the previous 4-inch centers. 6-inch centers. Blank units as well. I have had people that have had to drill holes into these because they've had some unusual size center to center for their lock and deadbolt. And they've simply decided to just take these and make their own. It's work, but you can most definitely do it. Those are either 9-inch tall or 12-inch tall. They have some larger ones here as well, 20-inch length. That would be very uncommon, but it could be possible that you run into a lock and you have a deadbolt that's far higher, and you might want to use one really long, 20-inch long plate. You know, the prep in the edge, obviously you can't do a mortise prep in the edge of the door. People will generally just drill a round hole. The issue with that, though, is if you have substantial damage to the edge of the door, you have nowhere to mount the latch bolt to. So be mindful of that. I've seen all sorts of creative ways where these are installed, you know, some better than others, but, you know, as long as it works for the client, it certainly works for me. This catalog will take you through all of the door reinforcing wraparound plates from Danjo, whose name is synonymous with door reinforcing wraparound plates and latch protectors. So this catalog is very handy. In the second half of the catalog, they get into these items where there are models available for very specific lock types. So be mindful that they very likely are going to have a model for the lock type you're using. If they don't, or you can't find one, reach out to us. We'll assist you with that. Okay. They also offer the VF model. The VF model is a flat front wrap where you do not have really any trouble with the edge of the door, and you can still attach the latch bolt to it, to the edge of the door itself. So the VF model will not have a mortise. They'll just have a couple of screws, and then the latch bolt will project out of that double D-shaped prep that's in the edge of the wrap. However, the more common ones would be and they do in this catalog still refer to the IW model. Anyway, let's ignore that. The mortise style latch. Now here, below this video is a link to the manufacturer's page. That's handy because if you know the name Danjo, you do probably so for their wraparound plates and their latch protectors. You can review all of the Danjo products here that we sell. You can also review, have the link to their website is here, as well as a link to the full product catalog. But those subsections of that catalog are listed here so that you don't have to go through this unwieldy document. If you want to just look at pivots, which you may not have known Danjo makes, here it is. Bolts and latches, filler plates, hinges, etc. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, the question is, why would you use this? Well, generally, you're buying this because there has been either damage, intentional, unintentional, to the point where you need to do something with the door. Very rarely would someone do this in a new installation. I've had a client, I recall it, think of it, every time I think of these, client was doing, like about a third of a city block of new construction, just, the same, sort of bi-level home on the northwest side of Chicago. And for the garage doors, he came in and ordered all the locks for the houses and the garage doors, obviously, basement door, whole 9 yards. And he wanted door reinforcing plates for his garage doors. And I says, well, it's new construction. Why are you putting them on? He says, I know I'm going to need them. So he didn't want to have to go back 6 months later after the homeowner, apparently he had a scenario where someone had broken into a garage and was obligated to repair that, apparently. So he put them all on right from day one. That's very unusual to do that. So why you would need this door reinforcing plate is someone broke in. Someone broke in and the door is very damaged, or you left your keys in and you decided to push the door in and you've damaged the door. And, the logic might be, well, why not just replace the door? Well, that's not always the best. That's usually, when you're looking at these, not the best solution. You could literally have a door that's not easy or inexpensive to replace. You may not have a carpenter who can prep a new door to fit your existing frame, although doing this installation you can handle. So people will choose this when this is the least worst of options, and that's where you'll you'll see these installed, you know, and they do allow you to salvage a door. You might have an oak door that has, you know, stained glass insert inside of it, and, you know, you don't want this, you know, you left your keys on the kitchen table, you thought that you wouldn't damage the door as much as you did, and now it's a $1,500 project. That's not what you have in mind. So people will opt for this. I would say they opt for it in applications where you are not going to see the door as much, but nonetheless, again, there are times when only this is an option. And, you know, at the end of the day, you kind of do get used to it being on the door, I suppose, and you don't notice it as much. If you have any questions on the Danjo, this is their part number 946SCW, double hole door reinforcing wraparound plate, or any other Danjo product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.